Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis on December 4th, and I have a blooming Cattleya walkeriana to show you. Of course, it is that one large one, which you can kind of see behind me, that I've talked about for a bunch of years. I haven't been able to get it to bloom because of my neighbor's lights. I set up a board, just a wood board between the neighbor's place and my greenhouse, and that worked. So that's triggered blooming. I have 6 flowers and 2 buds on this plant right now, and so I'm going to turn this around and show you. It is a tipo, so it's lavender. It's sort of a pink color, and it's really nice. The scent, of course, for any walkeriana is just absolutely amazing, and it's so great to have this in bloom finally. And I also want to show you a small plant. I want to show you what a small walkeriana can do in terms of blooming. And so before I turn the camera around, what I'm going to do is show you this little guy and show you here this bud popping up on a fairly small plant. So this is, if you have a first bloom seedling, this is the size that you can possibly expect to get blooms. Of course, as I've mentioned in other videos, this plant and several others that I have in the greenhouse that are actually spiking comes from my friend Luis Hamilton Lima in Brazil. It is from his breeding collection, and this is the cross. It's Teresa Helena by Raphael by Self. So it's a selfing of Teresa Helena by Raphael. Teresa Helena is, I believe, his mother's name, Luis's mother's name. Anyway, this is how small your walkeriana can be before it blooms. I would say that this is, a 3-inch pot, approximately 3 to 3.5 inches across. You can see the bulbs are fairly small still, so this is not a large plant by any means. So getting this bloom here is really great. And then the other ones that I have in the greenhouse that are also blooming are also about this size. I have one that's a little larger, same cross, still blooming for the first time. So I'm excited to see all of these bloom and what they look like when they come out. But enough babbling. Let's turn the camera around and check out this walkeriana. All right, here we go. So this is the walkeriana that I have grown for a bunch of years and have cut into many little pieces and given to friends so that they can actually grow this. Here's the cross. It's Estrela da Colina by Oliveros. Of course, Estrela da Colina is one of the more famous Brazilian clones from a long time ago, actually. And it has been used heavily in walkeriana line breeding here in the United States and in Brazil. Oliveros, I assume, is a reference to Ben Oliveros over there in Hawaii, who is also an excellent, well-known Cattleya breeder, and he's got a great program over there. So this, I guess, comes from that lineage. Of course, you can see some damage on that dorsal sepal there, which is unfortunate. Still have more buds coming. I did have bud blast here. I don't know what happened with this. This may have been a bug chewing on the flower. And you can really see how big this plant is. So for this one not to bloom for a bunch of years, it's kind of nice because it gives a decent bloom when it does finally go. But, to be honest, I would have much preferred it blooming every year. And I did still have some blasting. So you see this was a growth that should have put out a new lead. Of course, walkeriana generally puts out new leads and then blooms on them, like this one here. But then you can see sometimes those those new bloom spikes will also put out a leaf, as you can see here. And I suspect that leaf will stay that size. You can also see that on this one here. It probably won't get to full size like the rest of the plant. So it doesn't always just bloom from a very specialized growth. You know, you can see that this guy might actually be putting on a pseudobulb where this is blooming. And that might just be an exceptionally happy plant, or that could be indicative of a lot of GZI influence, which sadly is very common for walkeriana breeding. And just looking at this plant, I don't know, it might have a lot of GZI influence. The fact that it won't bloom unless it's got absolute darkness makes me wonder if that is pure walkeriana, because that is a characteristic that happens. I'm zooming in on this. Oh, let me see if I can zoom out. Oh, sorry, I zoomed out just for a second there because a monarch butterfly tried to land on the flower. But what I'm trying to do here with little success is show you the sparkles from this that really pops in the sun. Of course, the sun is behind a cloud now. So, you know, in addition to having a wonderful flower with an intensely powerful fragrance, which I just love, you know, this one's got big bulbs. So if you are growing walkeriana, these are the size of the bulbs that you're aiming for. This is a mature bulb. So you can see, compared to my finger here, it's pretty fat. If your bulbs are smaller and long and thin, you know, there's some cultural issues that could be happening. Here's another good example of how big your bulbs should be. You know, how long your leaves can be or should be as well. And most of my walkerianas and nobilior have a low-level scale infection at all times, as you can see right here. And that doesn't really matter. Here. You know, I'm not super excited to show you all this, but I want to let you know that, folks, when you hit your plants with these really harsh chemicals, make sure it's actually needed, you know. This guy can do just fine with a small bit of scale. I've seen people online that just freak out at the slightest mealybug or scale, and then they just nuke their plant and wonder why it dies or won't bloom for a couple years. You know, a healthy plant can absolutely deal with a low-level scale infection without a problem at all. Some are more susceptible than others. Some species are more susceptible, but for the most part, don't worry about it. Just let the plant deal with it. As you can see, this one is grown in large grade orchiata bark in clay pot. Clay pots, really, when you use really high quality bark, you don't need to pull the media off when you're repotting. And so you can just pop it into a larger pot, and that really helps the plant in a lot of ways. If you disturb the roots a lot, it can really set the plant back. But if you just take a larger pot and then plop it into, or the old pot and then plop it into a larger pot, that can the plant can just walk out and does just fine. Normally I have media here, but I think there were some small birds really enjoying this pot and pulling the bark out for reasons I don't fully understand, but it is what it is. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye.